Music. Afternoon or evening or whatever you might be doing while listening to this podcast. Hey, I'm Justin Crosley. This is The Session, and we are back live on the Brewing Network after an exciting trip to the Craft Brewers Conference, which I will wrap for you a little bit later. But let's just get right to the good stuff first. I've got a few guests in the studio today, some surprise guests, which I'm happy we're here having a beer, and one of their beers on tap. So this is the Sudwerk show. I've got Ryan Fry from Sudwerk. He's one of the owners there, and he's here. We're going to be talking about all kinds of Sudwerk beer, including some German stuff. He's got some great lagers that we brought out, a Heff. We got a few things to try, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're excited. Bunch of traditional stuff and some hoppy stuff as well. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, I'm excited about that. And then, our surprise guest today, we've got Justin and Evan from Ghost Town, who just happened to be hanging out here having a beer.
Hello.
Welcome, guys.
Hey, we'd like to loiter here.
Well, I appreciate the surprise visit. And the reason I wanted to have you guys on is we have this beer on tap right now that's fantastic. What's it called? Frozen something.
Frozen Fiend.
Frozen Fiend, right. Okay. And it's like a 7% IPA.
Yep.
And the reason I want to have you guys in, because I just thought it was a pretty interesting topic. So it's a kind of a fresh take on a wet hop beer, if I have that right.
Correct.
So those of you who don't know what a wet hop beer is, it's a stupid thing to have to make because essentially the hop growers harvest the hops, and of course they're wet coming right off the vine, and then ship them that same day to whatever brewers are savvy enough to want to brew a beer with that. And the idea is you have to get these wet hops to brewers really quick, or they just go bad. They go mildewy, and they just it can be a disaster. So it's always this sort of like harrowing experience to make a wet hop beer. Well, in this case, your hop provider, which I think is YCH,
Correct.
right?
Yeah,
Yakima,
YCH.
cheap. Came up with this process where, same thing, cut the hops and then freeze them like immediately, right?
Yep.
And then ship them to you that way. So kind of less of a harrowing ordeal, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And so the reason I want to talk about it too is not only is that sort of this new kind of unique thing, but it's got to be the best wet hop beer I've ever had.
definitely.
Right?
Yeah, this is one of the best I've ever had, to be honest.
Like it's missing all of that lawnmower thing that you don't really want, right?
Which, yeah, I mean, maybe that was part of the being cryogenically frozen right off the vine. Yeah, because it's definitely, we do a lot of wet hops every year, you know, because we'll fly up to Oregon, Portland, wherever, and drive back morning of and brew with it that day. But maybe like the freezing process of this helped keep that kind of vegetable matter in check a little bit.
Yeah. They must have done something because it is a very, like, in other words, it's even if you hadn't told me, if it wasn't in my beer description up there that it was a wet hop beer, I would have just called it like a really fresh hop beer.
Mm-hmm,
I wouldn't have even described it that way to somebody.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, does it sort of thaw out in the process of shipping and it's like ready to go when it gets to you, or?
Yeah, exactly. So, so first time we've ever done this, and that is basically the process. So let's say we were to do it during harvest season, right? August through September. Those hops have to be picked that morning, shipped that morning, and brewed with that afternoon.
Oh, okay.
If you are, you know, I mean, everybody that brews beer in Seattle, Portland, Washington, they're lucky because they're right there. They just go pick them up.
It's a bit easier, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why during harvest season when we go up to select hops, we love it. We spend 2 weeks there just drinking fresh hops because it's the time of year, right? You don't
Yeah.
get to do this. So, you know, YCH has been doing whatever they can to try and bring this product to you year round. So one of the advantages to it is, yes, it actually takes about 24 hours to thaw.
Okay.
So you ship it the day before. So your shipping charges are still very expensive, but they're not nearly what they are if you were to try and ship same day. And we're talking, this is a 35 barrel batch, so we do 10 pounds per barrel, so 350 pounds.
Wow.
Not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the fact that you can overnight it helps out. The fact that it thaws a little bit overnight helps out. But which is, you know, is one of those. It's we love them so much. Our owner Ryan was like, you know what, Justin, let's put one of these on the schedule. You know, I don't care. This is not about money or anything like that. This is for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
Because we want to drink this. You know,
Right.
like let's get this flavor back on our palates because we can only drink this 6 weeks out of the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a fun experiment. And fortunately, we actually tried this before SF Beer Week, and the hops didn't arrive. So we had to resort to a plan B and still made like a West Coast IPA out of it.
Was it the same like frozen hops didn't arrive, or like traditional wet hops didn't arrive?
Frozen
This
hops
one,
didn't
okay.
arrive.
No, they were shipped.
Okay.
They were shipped. They
So
just
somewhere in the middle.
Somebody lucky got an order that morning.
Right.
Hey, 350 pounds of mosaic.
I really want that to be like an accidental brewery and not just like wasted in a FedEx warehouse, right? I just want it to be like some local guy's like, okay.
okay. What am I gonna do with this? Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately though, like I said, that didn't work out for us. We turned that into something else. But this one worked out. The hops were there on time, like we asked for, and man, when we opened them up, they were actually still. I almost wish I gave them maybe another 10 hours to thaw out.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were still like there's some little crystals on there, but like it's really cool. Like again, I don't know the actual process that they do for cryogenically freezing them. But there's no like freezer burn, and like even like when we get like fresh hop during the season, you'll get them and you'll have some little brown marks and things like that. You know, these were just beautiful green all the way through. Like we had 35 boxes of it, and every single box you open up, you're just like, God, they look so beautiful.
Oh, it must have
so
smelled
good.
amazing too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Once I mean, you know, our tap room was open and everything, and we're brewing this, and then you just see customers coming up. They're like, "What the fuck is going on in there?"
Oh yeah. Your neighbors are like, did they open a dispensary on this block?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. No, it's. But yeah, no, it was a cool process.
What variety of hop is it?
Mosaic.
It's all mosaic.
Yeah, 100% mosaic. Like I said, yeah, we do 10 pounds per barrel. It's all at Whirlpool. Basically, we use our mash tun as a hop back.
Okay.
You know, so we'll throw it back in there after boil, and then we'll just recirculate it through. We get the temperature down to about 180, just to make sure we don't, you know, get too much bitterness off of it. You know, we can just kind of like really extract those oils and flavor profiles.
Sure.
And then we just recirculate it, you know, like a Vorloff, basically. And I'll just keep pulling samples, and you get to the point where you're like, all right, you know, we're almost there, and we know our knockout time is going to be 30 more minutes. Let's send it through. Wow. And we found it's anywhere in the 45-minute to hour range. And, you know, again, at that 180, it's kind of a, you know, you're safe, right?
I see.
You're not going to over really do it if it sits much longer.
Okay.
But yeah, we kind of just keep tasting it, and you keep tasting it, and you just wait until it just like stings the back of your neck.
I see.
And then you know, like the yeast will, you know, take a lot of that out of the beer and product.
So you kind of go overboard a little bit, knowing that it's going to strip some.
Oh, of course.
So let me make sure I have this right. So is there nothing that goes into this beer until that point then at the end?
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
So there's no like tiny bittering addition or anything.
I take it back. I do put in 8 ounces of Mosaic T90 at boil just because.
You feel like you
I'm
have
a
to.
firm believer
for how many barrels?
35. So nothing. That's pretty much nothing. Yeah. I just throw in a little bit of T90 in there. I don't know why. It's just a superstitious type thing. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I would too.
But yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, and then we just do that, and then we just recirculate until until we're happy with the flavor profile, and
nice.
We send it off and do our fermentation with it.
I like your scientific method too. You're like, just you get this little sting in the back of the throat, and then you're ready.
Hey,
it's art.
Yeah,
I know it really is.
Hey, I'm a firm believer, man. You know, because you can. I mean, there's math and everything. You can dial it in, but like, you know, we're like, as you know, like with us, we've been changing equipment a lot and growing a lot. So
me and our lead brewer and everything, like we taste wort daily, you know, and I make sure like we taste wort, we taste fermentation daily, because you want to, you know, I mean, you know, you can follow gravities, you can follow pHs, you can follow that stuff, but this is how you stay in tune with it. We're still small enough where, you know, you just want to be in tune with your product. But like when you really understand how that glass of wort will change into that final product, you can just, you know, you
get that feel for it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what type of bitterness you're looking for. And then this being a frozen fresh hop beer, you know, like it's like, okay, yeah, we have the buffer zone. We want it to be more aggressive and yada, yada.
Right.
And then with that being said, you know, we hit that 7% ABV just to make sure, because like it's a big difference from 6.8 to 7.2. You know, you can go 20 IBUs heavier, no sweat. You know, it's like it's real quick. It's like it just switches it like 6.5. You have to like kind of play it safe, but you hit like 7%. You're like,
interesting.
You kind of get into the safe range because your alcohol content will just kind of just help mask it.
See, I wouldn't
like
have guessed that. I thought you guys were all like, 6.8 to 7.2, we're just good to go. And there's not a big old difference.
No, the huge difference. I mean, 6.8 is like again, like most brewers want to make like a 6.4 IPA, in my opinion, because it's low enough ABV where we can keep crushing them. And then your dry hop does go a little bit further because, you know, you're fighting with everything else. But when you hit that 7%, like, I don't know. I feel like, you know, it's like a lot of doubles and all that stuff. You never really have a double IPA where you're like, that's just too bitter. I mean, you have once or twice, but it's like, normally it's like, yeah, you can't really go over too bitter with it.
Right.
And with something like this, I can't calculate out what type of bitterness we're going to get. They don't send us the alpha acids or anything like that, you know? So you just got to, you know, go by feel.
Got to go by feel.
Yeah.
And do you dry hop this at all too, or are you done at that point?
Oh, fuck yes, we dry
You do.
We cheat. No. Yeah, no, it's dry hopped with, you know, we select all our own hops. But yeah, it's some Mosaic and some Mosaic Cryo in there at about right around 3 pounds per barrel, you know, which is today's standards, probably on the low end. I don't know. Most people are doing 4 pound, but yeah, I mean, it was already so aromatic before we even put the dry hop in there. So it was just kind of just to keep it on the West Coast thing. Like, cause after drinking so many wet hops, the ones that stood out the best were the ones that just more had the sappy, just jammy, incredible flavor profile. It wasn't about the wet hop aroma, because that can tend to be grassy. So that's why we want to get the T90s and the Cryo in there, just to make sure it still smells like Mosaic. But then you have this flavor profile that's nice and just cool bitterness that you just don't normally feel in your mouth.
Yeah.
Plus this other just Mosaic flavor profile that you just don't get. You know, and that's what's fun about it. It's like
I think you guys achieved that.
Yeah,
it's all those oils.
It's so much oil. Exactly.
Almost gives you a different viscosity to your beer, slightly.
Oh, totally.
So kind of a bunch that you lose basically in the processing of hops into pellets is what you're saying. That's why there's more oils and all of that.
Yeah, with like the kilning process, right? Yeah,
Got it.
You dry off and like I don't know if like our other wet hop beer that we do every year is the Strata one, and to me it was my favorite name of any beer we've ever done, and we called it Scissor Hash.
Nice.
For any of you that have trimmed weed, you smoke scissor hash. You know, I mean, it's like that's like, to me, that was the difference of it, right? You know, like that smoking the. Sorry, you know, yeah.
Hey, it's legal here. You're
right.
Yeah.
Smoking a bowl of some scissor hash as opposed to a dry bowl. I mean, they're both beautiful, but it's just a different thing that you just don't get to achieve. You know, it's like silly shit like that. I don't know. But yeah, they're just fun. We're fortunate enough to be here to do it. But I will say this, you know, any other breweries listening throughout the country, like, talk to YCH and get your hands on this, because they can overnight it to you. It's
nice.
It's actually cheaper than buying fresh hop, because you have that 24-hour thaw period. And
now it can, like you kind of said earlier, it can be done year round, because they're just keeping it in a cryo freezer like until someone orders it.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing.
And I'd hop on it now because no pun intended, but
might be gone already.
No, they're also. I think they're trying new other products out, so this might not be around much longer, just because it does take up a lot of space in their coolers. It's hard to ship. It's, you know, big packaging. You know, I don't work for YCH. I'm not trying to, you know.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, this is something that they're going to probably start to steer away from, just because of packaging issues, warehouse,
Sure.
space that it takes up and everything.
Okay.
So.
And that makes me think of you too. Like you must have lost a lot of volume with this particular beer. Also,
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But we
do
always,
you, do you ever use whole hops at all besides this type of experiment?
Yeah.
you do? Okay.
On our new brew house, we actually have a hop back plumbed into it.
Got it.
So we're doing next week we're releasing that collab with Slice, a double IPA that has a shitload of Strata whole cone in it.
Oh, nice.
And but yeah, every time you do it, you kind of get your numbers and you know what your loss is. So we just kind of account for a loss and we'll just do a higher collection or something like that, or
Okay.
or just take the loss in
Sure.
the final product.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Calculate it all in there.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, too, there was no hops put into the kettle, right? So we don't have
right.
that loss either.
Because it's
So
going through a hop back.
yeah, that 8 ounces didn't do
Right.
anything. So yeah.
That absorbs so much beer.
I know. Oh my god. Yeah. So and normally like with our typical beers, we're like at 1.3, 1.4 pounds per barrel in the Whirlpool, which destroys your yield. But
Right.
this kind of maybe it would have been equivalent to using like 2 pounds per barrel.
Okay.
That's like how I would associate the loss to that.
Got it.
So.
Okay. It's so good. I just want to talk about it because it's delicious.
Oh, fuck yeah. No,
it's
no.
like
we're-
my ideal IPA.
Right?
Like, I'm stoked you guys made it like this. Very crushable, but so much great flavor, and it's delicious.
Yeah. This one must have been easy to sell, Evan. You're just like, hey, just take this little sample, and everyone's like, I'll take 2.
No samples even needed.
Yeah.
It was gone. It was gone just from talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't always pay attention to my beer list here if I'm busy. I don't drink at my bar every day. But I like 3 people, including the new brewer around the corner, came in, I think, yesterday. And I saw him at the bar. And I was like, hey, but you have your own bar. And he was like, no, I came to try this beer. I really needed to try this beer. And so that's what got me thinking about it. Saw you guys today, tried it, and went, oh, okay, I get it.
Well,
Yeah, no, this is awesome timing.
honestly, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you to you and your buyer. Anything fun, anything eclectic that we're going to do, I mean, you can pretty much guarantee it's going to be here.
Yeah.
Your buyer wants it.
Yeah.
And we want it.
Yeah,
here.
Lewis gets ornery if we don't get whatever. I've seen him.
Trust me.
You know.
I
yeah.
don't want to see it ever again.
Yeah. All right, let me do a couple quick announcements, and then we're going to talk about some Sudwerk beer, too. But thanks to our sponsor, More Beer. More Beer's been the sponsor of this show since day 0, really, and they're still here today. And I've been working with them a lot more, actually. Me and Chris Graham brewed we got back into home brewing and just brewed a Dortmunder, actually. We're going to do a whole show about it, but we brewed, it was a recipe from Tasty that he won 2nd place in the national homebrew competition. And so Chris Graham and I had realized in all the years we've been going, he's been going to this competition and conference for almost 20 years. I've been going for like 16 or 17. And I've never entered the competition. I'm a terrible homebrewer. So I called him one day. I was like, hey, why don't let's brew a beer and enter this competition. It'll just be fun. So we brewed Tasty's Dortmunder. And anyway, it was just a lot of fun. We're going to be doing an upcoming show to tell you all about that. But Chris Graham and all the crew over at More Beer have just been so supportive. So support them too. Check out their new Komos line of everything. The kegerators and jockey boxes. I've got both now because I just couldn't resist. I saw it in their showroom. They got everything you need over there. Also, if you want to send us feedback about this show or any other show, send it to feedback@thebrewingnetwork.com. We love to hear from you. You can still support us through PayPal. Just hit the donate button on our website. I think I put it everywhere I possibly could. I should probably make it even bigger. Just hit the donate button. As little as like $2, and it enters you into the More Beer monthly donation giveaway. We raffle off $100 to somebody who's been supporting us. And while I'm talking about that, a bunch of you have been, I was going through the list the other day. And, it's a small percentage of listeners that donate, but it's a large percentage of the donors who've really been doing it for years and years. And I can't thank you enough. Like, we're here because of folks like you and, of course, More Beer and our sponsors. So thanks for that. If you don't want to do a donation, that's cool. You could do your Amazon shopping. Just click the Amazon links on our homepage, and then you just do your shopping as normal. I think for once you click the Amazon link for 30 days, it's valid for us. So I appreciate if you did that. All right. And the last thing, I wanted to give a shout out. Did you all enter you did enter the World Beer Cup. I know that because you guys at Ghost Town won for, don't tell me, Ossuary.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Which is what? Robust Porter?
Robust
Yep.
Porter
Nice.
took
Congrats.
silver.
Congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
is so
Thanks, man.
awesome.
Yeah, we're very excited, very happy with this.
Like, what a cool... I always like all the awards. I like the World Beer Cup. I like the Great American Beer Festival. I especially love seeing my friends on stage, just getting these medals. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Did Sudwerk enter this
We
year?
did.
Yeah.
Struck out.
Struck
Sorry.
out this
we
year?
We tried.
You guys killed
We
it at
backed
the GABF.
Yeah,
so.
I think we tried all of our luck at the GABF. So yeah.
Well, you guys
Hey,
were...
congratulations.
was it Mid-Size Brewery of the
Yeah,
Year?
mid-sized brewery of the year. So
Yeah, that's no
we're
slouch.
fired up on that one. So it's okay about the World Beer Cup. We'll get them next time.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about some of your award-winning beers. But I wanted to give a special shout-out because it's another brewery I really like here, and they were on the show recently, and that's Wild Fields. Wild Fields is down in Atascadero, and if you just go a couple shows back, you can listen to them. These guys won 4 gold medals in the
Damn.
World Beer Cup. And I did a little research. I couldn't go farther back than this, but I found out it hasn't been done since 2006. Now, breweries have won 4 medals before, but 4 gold medals? I thought that maybe it had never happened. It turns out Miller did it
Oh,
back in 2006 in all of the American-style lager categories. There must be
Wow.
4 of them. It's like light lager, full lager. Maybe there's like a pre-pro. I don't even know what they are. And they've probably changed in 2006 too. But that's the last time it was done. And I don't know that it was ever done before that. And so I just wanted to give a shout-out because, like, you guys know this, and I've talked about it on the show a lot. In the award competition, there's a bunch of luck involved,
Definitely.
right? But it's not all luck. Like, any time you see a brewery, for example, win one of the Brewery of the Year categories, or I used to watch Firestone win medal after medal.
Yep.
Now, you could always make these arguments, well, they enter more beers, and they enter more... Okay, all of that's valid. But you don't win a bunch of medals unless all of those things you entered were fucking fantastic.
Yeah, agreed.
definitely.
So I always like to make a point of, like, if you got 4 gold medals, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You are brewing incredible beer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they're a little out of range for me to go and drink. How many times am I going to be able to come and drink them here? Hey, I'm going to be
them-
dependent on you.
We get them at least once a month.
All right.
Nice.
And so they used to deliver up here to us, which was a pain in the ass for them. Great for us. Now they finally get it distributed. So I think we order for them at least once a month. And I've liked their beer since before I've known any of this.
Oh yeah, that's agreed.
That's why we had them on the show. I wrote down the styles that they won too. So American style brown ale, which is, I think that's a cool style to win right there. They won in Scottish ale.
Nice.
They won another brown ale. They won English style brown ale. So they won English brown ale and American brown ale. And by the way, this is the World Beer Cup, so you have to assume there was some English style brown ale.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Right? You just have to.
100%.
And these are the best beers in the world. Mike.
Yeah.
Multi-generational breweries competing in that category.
Oh, for
Right?
sure. Oh, yeah.
And an American style cream ale.
Nice.
So 4 categories, and I don't know, to get gold in the 4 categories you entered, I got to get them back to find out, like, what if those were the only 4 categories they entered, and they just had 100% success
Whoa.
rate with gold? I got to find out. If
That's
That'd be
they
impressive.
Is there a limit on how many you can enter?
yes. This year it was 10.
Okay.
So, but you have to obviously pay.
You pay
for
every time,
entry.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
You got
I
to
think
provide
every-
a good amount of samples too.
Do you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No,
Like,
it's
what are we
like-
talking? Are you going to send a 12-pack in or something?
I think it was like a case per style or
Pretty much.
more.
Per
yeah.
stuff. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's several rounds of judging, isn't it? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were doing 4 packs. Either way.
Okay.
No, I mean, when it's all said and done, it's like, for 10 categories, you're talking $3,000,
Right.
$2,500, $3,000.
Sure.
You know, so it's not cheap.
No,
to
that's a chunk of change.
enter all these things.
And it's your marketing budget, right? Because if you do win, it's a nice thing to be able to
heck,
talk about. you
definitely.
know?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, like if I'm these guys, I'm making T-shirts like F. Miller.
Oh, totally.
And then the other World Beer Cup shout out I want to get. She's not here today, which is my fault. But my co-host and your fellow brewer Teresa Pasuti from Crooked Lane up there in is she Auburn? I think it's Auburn.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
So also won a gold. I'm pretty sure it's gold. And she won it in the Belgian style category.
Nice.
Which she was
awesome.
I saw her after and she's just dumbfounded. And I'm like, don't question it. Because again, you have to assume she beat Belgians.
Yeah.
Like people from Belgium in the Belgian category. And she just was dumbfounded about it. But congratulations, because that's kind of a cool thing too. Like for me, you do want to see the people who internationally win too. Because you want them to keep participating so that this is a world beer cup, right? Mm-hmm. Not like the World Series, for example, which is just American baseball. But it's also pretty cool when an American brewer wins that category, right? It's got to feel good as a brewer.
Always. Oh, yeah.
So good stuff. I want to thank the Brewers Association for letting the Brewing Network stream the award ceremony. That's always fun for me to do. And there was a couple technical issues there. My apologies. Yeah, I'll get it right next time. But still, a few thousand of you were able to tune in, and I'm always proud to bring that to you. So thanks for letting me be a part of it over at the BA. All right, we're going to take ourselves a quick break. Justin, Evan, thanks for being here and talking about that beer with us.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks for having us, Justin. Appreciate
Great
it, brother.
Stuff. All right, Ryan, when we come back, we're drinking some Sudwerk beer, and we're talking about you guys.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
Hang in there. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Session.
Definitely reach out to YCH on those cryo hops or the frozen wet hops. Yeah. I've been trying this. I'm like, oh, it's
We saw some holy people walk out.
That's a killer.
Preaching on the lawns and the gardens to the faithful.
No, I'll have to do that. Yeah, I like that.
Some night was playing on the big stage.
Perfect. Yeah, it sounds great. You need help?
Strumming all the right chords for a good mood. Down in the canyon all through the night, 10,000 lives I've lived singing side by side. Why won't you let me break your heart and see the light of day drifting through the dark? And I know that
everyone's got to do that. But at the same time, even if you're telling me not to do that, and I mean, they're putting out good liquid.
Welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Thanks to Ghost Town for stopping in and letting us talk about that beer. And all right, now we are talking Sudwerk.
Yeah.
So now I've known you guys for years now, and been a fan for a long time. But a lot has changed at Sudwerk over the years. Like I've been doing this since '05.
Okay.
When did you and your partner Trent take over Sudwerk? Kind of officially?
Started there around 2008, and really it was kind of, we grew up with the brewery. We're both born and raised there. Trent's grandfather started it with one of his buddies, and it was kind of at the tail end of their lives. They were like in their 80s, 90s, and there wasn't anyone else to really take it over, so they were thinking about closing it down. So we've always grew up with it, loved the beer. It was like the first beer we had. It was the beer I grew up in my house with. My grandfather's German, and it was like you got German imports or you got Sudwerk in our house. And so we, are always chomping at the bit to be a part of the brewery. And then one day we finally finished up college and opportunity opened itself up. So we were chomping at the bit to get in there, and we started just helping out wherever we could. And then they're like, hey, you guys got to figure out how to close this thing down. And we're like, no way. Like, we have beer's great. It just needs, some, a little more life to breathe into it. So
the beer was always great, by the way. Like I think when I was introduced to the brewery, Jay Prawl was the brewer.
Yeah.
Great guy, great brewer. The beer was always great. It is now better than ever. Nothing against Jay, by the way, but it is now better than ever. And was that part of when you say kind of needed to breathe some new life into it? Is that something that you and Trenton felt like too? Like, okay, we're good, but we need to go next level.
Yeah, I think, like you said, like Jay was making some great beer. We always were making some great beer, but we knew that also we wanted to always get better, and quality is a cornerstone of that. And so I mean, we thought we had to first dial in the beer quality as well as breathe new life into just the brand and the business and everything. And so we started working with UC Davis, and UC Davis has one of the top brewing programs in the world, and their master brewing program was housed in our brewery.
Right.
So we just started talking to their professors and started talking to their alumni, going to their classes, and just figuring out, just getting advice, having people try the beer, come watch the brewing process, figuring out how we can make it, improve our quality as best we could. So that was one of our initial focuses, as well as just getting the beer back out there. Really, we inherited a bunch of distribution networks, and there was no one really working with them, and the beer was just kind of available locally. And
you guys were somewhat pigeonholed too into the German styles, right? Which when Trent's grandfather opened, I think that was a great move, right? Like that was something that was unique, and it was like a point of focus, I think. But as the beer industry grew over the years, you couldn't just stay with that. I met Trent's grandfather, by the way. Great guy.
Oh, yeah.
I had dinner with him once there at the restaurant, and just a nice gentleman. So I guess what I mean is you guys have expanded into other beers, all while remaining with some German beer focus, or at least a lager focus, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we recognize that the brand, it started, like you said, as America's answer to import beers. And that was where in '89 they started. Imports were all the rave. And so they were like, we're going to brew fresh, great German-style beers here locally. And, kind of have that as their kind of niche in the market. And we came in, we found our beer in the import section in local like stores, and we're like, no, we brew it down the street, and they're like, oh no, this is made in Germany, and we're like, okay, we
too authentic.
Yeah, we got an issue here, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we also, one thing we really loved about the brewery is it had a lager foundation, and we grew up drinking, obviously, Sudwerk, but then we also grew up drinking, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale and Stone and Lagunitas, and we loved our IPAs. But we'd get hopped out, and we'd come back to, a lager, and usually it was more of a macro-style lager. There was no one outside of, like, kind of Sudwerk locally making lager-style beers consistently, really hanging their hat on it. And so we thought we had the opportunity to really take that lager focus and really showcase what lagers could be outside of traditional German styles and have some fun with it. And so that was kind of our focus, was dial in the original recipes and the original beers, and then start using that foundation. In 2008, we started making like hoppy lagers and IPLs, and kind of we're like, all right, if we can take the best part of the IPA and the best part of the Pilsner and bring them together, like that's the beer we want to be drinking all day, right?
Well, and you guys were one of the first, I think, to do that, at least to put it out as like a real brand. The IPL.
Definitely.
I remember drinking it. So, for example, too, moving on from German styles, but sticking with lagers, is we have an American style lager in our glass now. Backyard Hero.
Backyard Hero. Yeah, it's an American lager. It's about 4.5%. We make it with some locally grown rice, about 30% of the beers, some local rice. And our goal with this one was just really light, crushable, easy drinking beer. It has a blend of German noble hops and some West Coast hops in it. And it's kind of like an ode to like kind of what American lagers were maybe like 30, 40 years ago, before they started getting a little more commoditized and watered down. And so
it's all malt, this?
No, it's not. It's 30% rice.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
But because it's flavored like it's all malt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we try to keep the body there as well and just have that really crisp finish to it, so that I think you get a little bit of the hops up front in it, a little more of the malt there, and then real smooth finish to it. Try to keep it on the light side. I mean, it's not as light as your light lager, but
no, it's not, which I appreciate about it. I don't want it too light,
Yeah.
Now you guys are in a college town. And years ago, only a few years ago, I would have said to you, oh, you guys just made this for the college kids. But I don't think that's true anymore. Like, lagers are really coming back. Lucky for you guys, well-positioned. And I don't think you did just make this for the college kids. I think you would have made something else for them at this point. It's like a seltzer.
Yeah, exactly. We have a little bit of seltzer. But this is not a huge college kid beer. We tried, kind of seeing if the college kids are interested in it, but they really weren't, They're kind of going after your natural light or something like that,
Sure.
So but they do appreciate it, and I think this is really something what we're looking for, right? Like we loved our Pilsner, and we're like, we grew up drinking a lot of American lagers, and started talking with some of the UC Davis alumni that spent their career brewing American lagers, and they'd tell us stories about what American lagers were when they started in the industry 50, 60 years ago.
Right.
And they're like, man, that beer, and you're talking to your parents or grandfather, it just, they were kind of telling you about these beers, and it's like you couldn't go out and drink that beer, right?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to recreate that and really kind of bring that experience back and showcase what American lagers used to be and what they can be. So
I like the idea too, because I'll admit, so I love a good Pilsner. I like your Pilsner quite a lot.
Thank you.
Problem with a great Pilsner is you want to drink it all day, right? You want to drink a bunch, which you can do, but that you're not going to do much else when you're done.
Yeah.
With this beer, you can have those 4 or 5 or whatever, and I'm not saying you're going to get in your car or anything, but you can probably still barbecue and hang out with the kids.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I like that about the style too, because it's full flavor, and if you want to put down a few, then you go with a style like this.
You nailed it. That's what we're going for.
That's what like a Coors Banquet used to be.
Exactly.
Right? Like the one that you could not quite a like. Forget about the Bud Light of the world, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying there's not a place for that, but if I'm going to have a few on a warm day, give me like a banquet or like this. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of our take on this one, right? So,
what are the hops?
Hallertau, Tradition, Perlay, and Cascade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and Cascade.
Cascade, yeah. We kind of mixed it up there.
Is there like a late hop addition too? Because it's got some hop character.
A little bit of Cascade.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's a good one to mix in there.
Yeah, just kind of playing off the traditional German hops, but we want to really kind of take our own take on it too. Like you wouldn't have found Cascade in any American lagers, over history, but
Sure.
this is kind of our take on it, and kind of brightens it up a little bit with a little bit of hop characteristic, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's a great beer.
Yeah.
And you
Thank
guys
you.
can pretty much everything you make, right?
can everything we make and bottle some of our German style beers as well.
Okay.
But I mean, the market's really going towards cans, so that's kind of where we're at too.
That's another thing that I think I noticed right away about your brewery back when it was built. So I guess that Trent's grandfather had this foresight is you guys already had, you were a small brewery with a big ass bottling line.
Yep.
Like back in the day, like you guys acquired a big ass bottling line. And I remember the brewery itself used to just be the one in the restaurant.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think you guys still had a bottling line.
Yeah. It was the original brew house is in the restaurant that it actually went out of business. We'll talk about this a little bit later, and we're going to reopen it here later this year. But it was a 2-kettle copper kind of clad system. With
beautiful.
Caspari system, open firms. And then they were brewing on that. They were selling more beer over the counter in the first 5 years than anywhere else in North America. And they were brewing on it all day, all night, and they hit capacity. And so they're like, all right, and people were like, hey, where can we buy your beer on the market? So they're like, all right, well, we'll build a whole commercial side of the brewery. And so they built another brew house in the back of the restaurant. And that's where they have a Crohn's bottling line. We have a 65-barrel Steinecker brew house. It was computer operated. So at that time, and that was, really kind of
crazy.
Advanced, bunch of 110 fermenters, I think about 9 of them. And so, I mean, they really were setting up to kind of scale that brewery up. But this was also at the time when, Trent's grandfather and his business partner, this was like a hobby for him. It was a hobby that just had a bunch of life initially and really grew up fast on him. And then it just didn't have anyone to kind of keep it going at the time. So when we stepped in, it was kind of underutilized. And we're like, oh, man, we have everything we need to really start,
to go over this.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone else was about to get a sweet deal.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm really glad that you guys recognized that.
Yeah, it took us about 4 or 5 years to get the deal done because everyone kind of was chomping at the bit to kind of figure it out and undercutting us. And like even Miller Coors showed up thinking, oh, this could be a Blue Moon brewery, and they killed our deal for a year. But we were just tenacious, kept with it, and we had the vision and the passion to really say, hey, we can really keep this brewery alive in our community, and that's kind of our focus, really be the local community brewery and kind of be able to give back to that. So
that's really great.
Yeah.
I also remember that you guys were kind of the main facility for the UC Davis brewing program. I know you mentioned that, but what I mean by main facility is like, I remember where they built in the Mondavi Center, whatever is the new facility where they have like this really cool high-tech thing. But before that, I thought pretty much all the brewing was done with you guys at Sudwerk for those classes.
There was, and the thing about UC Davis, they couldn't really finish beer there because they didn't have like a brewing license, and so they would brew on our license over there, so they could actually finish the beer, and we'd be able to. Eventually, we started working more hand in hand with them to serve the beers on tap at our tap room, things like that nature. But since then, they've built out a whole new brewery, so they do a lot more brewing on campus now.
That's what I thought. Yeah. But that affiliation again, I don't know. I wish we could still talk to Trent's grandfather and his partner too, because I just feel like there was really something there, a bunch of smart moves, maybe a little luck about the location that has always made it such like a unique place. And you guys are still pretty involved with the UC Davis brewing program.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we just had the Iron Brew competition that they do every year with the undergraduate program. So there's the undergraduate program that's mainly on campus, and then there's the extension program that's actually in the backside of our brewery in a classroom.
Okay.
And so we're involved both from the Iron Brew competitions with the undergraduate program, and a group of students get together and they all make a beer and enter into competition. A bunch of different brewers come in and judge the beer, and the winning beer gets brewed up on our system, and we scale it up, help them design a label, can it, put it in kegs, go out and release it into the market. So the winning beer this year is a Scottish ale.
Oh, cool.
And that's actually be released the first week of June.
Oh, that's
great.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're always trying to be involved as much as possible. A lot of internships, things of that nature. A lot of our brewers are graduates of the program, so we're really lucky to have that that technical base within our brew team from UC Davis. So
there's a lot of good resources there.
Yeah, it's great.
And how many barrel brew house are you now?
So we have total barrels.
Well, just the brew house itself. Like
brew house does about 65 barrels per batch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And how much you brew in a year?
A little under 10,000 barrels right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are doing all right.
Yeah, we have some room to grow within our current setup, and we have more space for more tanks if we wanted to keep growing beyond that. And
sure.
So
you guys have a good property there.
It is.
Is the bottling line gone? Is it just a canning line now?
No, we use it. We use the bottling. Yeah, it's getting a little age on it, but I mean, when it does a little over 100 bottles a minute, and 0 DO pickup for the most part. So I mean, we're really lucky. A lot of people come in to our brewery and they're expecting kind of like a really small, maybe like 4-head like bottling line or something like that, and then they see this, giant Crohn's line, and we're lucky. Crohn's only made, I think, 2 of them for North America when they're doing it, and they are kind of starting to get into the craft beer industry in like the mid 90s, and then the craft beer industry kind of flattened out and they just didn't pursue it. Now they offer more stuff, but we were lucky to have it that time, and it is getting a little bit aged, takes a lot of maintenance, but we are lucky to have it.
Do you guys have just a full-time maintenance person for that stuff?
It's getting to the point, yes.
It's about that, yeah. That's still, again, you guys, I've been talking about the vision of Trenton's grandfather, but you guys too, like you really saw something there, and there really was something there, which is probably why everyone was kind of chomping at the bit for it. But to have the tenacity to not let that go, it's just really kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Because you know this, to build that, I mean, it would have been a heck of a lot more work to go find all the money to build that.
Oh, yeah. It would have been. And yeah, we had people like being like, hey, you guys don't need to worry about making the beer. Just go build a brand and someone else will make the beer for you. And we're like, that's not really what we're trying to do here, And so, yeah, no, I mean, it's a lot. It's still a lot of hard work. The team, really is. It's a grind. We have a huge facility, and it's a burden and a blessing, right? Because there's a certain amount of labor and costs that go into keeping that size of a brewery going, and so we can't just play the tap room game where we just want to make beer for our tap room or local market. We have to hit a certain volume to cover some of those costs. So it is a little bit of a balancing act, and we have a whole cellar and a whole cold side of the brewery. And that was something we had to come to terms with. Like, we could save significant costs if we just started making only ales and really getting away from the lager. But we really thought that we could really, make a place in the market for, focusing on lagers and showcasing what lagers could be, and what they are. So
and having the multiple sales channels, even though you're right, that's a large animal to maneuver. But to have over the counter, which again we're going to talk about the restaurant again in a little while, but you guys have a beer garden there too.
We do.
To have over the counter, which you probably do well in that town, to have distribution, I've bought you guys in grocery stores, to have the multi-channel. Russian River's come in and talk about that, like when the pandemic hit.
Yes.
And all the over-the-counter, either if you were distribution only or over-the-counter only, if you were either of those only, you were kind of fucked for a minute.
You were. Yeah. I was just talking at the Master Brewing Program at UC Davis on Tuesday about this, and they're like making a case like, so do you think it would be good just to be a tap room business? I'm like, they're like, why would you ever want to go through wholesale? And I'm like, well, you could probably make a really good business. I'm not knocking on it. It actually is a really good business, but like you said, you are susceptible to like when there's a pandemic and it gets shut down,
or something like a fire. What if there's a fire in your tasting room? Like, you're totally effed, right?
Exactly. I mean, during COVID, we were lucky that we also had a distribution network, and we lost, our taproom business about 15%, and then we're about seasonally it changes, but about on average about 50% on-prem, 50% off-prem and wholesale. So I mean, we lost 65% of our business, but we were able to continue to establish our supermarket business or off-premise business that kept us alive during COVID.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah. And I don't know what a upstart brewery right now would do. I'm not saying, be smart like Sudwerk and make sure you have all the channels right when you open. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Exactly.
But I am saying that it's a smart business plan, even though it's so many moving parts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think it just really depends on how much beer you want to make, and it's like if you just want to make a small amount, tap room makes sense. But if you're building a big brewery, I mean, you probably should be thinking maybe multiple tap rooms and also wholesale,
Sure.
So.
And either way, you're probably making the same amount of money, which is not much. So it really is probably like a personal choice. What do you want to run?
It is. Yep. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this Heff that's in our glass too. So this is going to be one of the. I'm sure you've modified it, but this is like one of the original Sudwerk beers.
One of the original Sudwerk beers, yeah. And so this is traditional Bavarian style Heff. We actually have our own proprietary yeast strand for this beer. Comes from an old brewery in Germany. One of our partners, UC Davis alumni, had like a collection of yeast, and he brought in this yeast strand. He's like, "You guys, try this out. It's my favorite Heff yeast." And so we started utilizing it, and it really ferments out nicely. Has really nice ester profiles in it. You get a little more kind of a citrus, fruitier characteristic out of it, less of that kind of banana, bubblegum, clove you traditionally get. So we feel like it's a little bit lighter mouthfeel on it as well. It's brewed it's fermented in open firms. So real vigorous fermentation profile comes through on it. And
was that always the case? That you always had open fermenters?
Yeah. So the original brew system had open firms. Everything was an open firm.
I don't even remember seeing those.
Yeah, they're actually behind big windows. So when we open the restaurant back up, you'll be able to watch the beer ferment. Yeah,
I do. I remember that. Yeah. So you think that really contributes to the unique flavor?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And
is this still a big seller for you guys?
It is probably third best seller for us.
See,
yeah,
I like to hear that for it. So Heff's not my favorite style or anything, but it does seem like it just disappeared off the face of the earth for a minute. And we've been getting more of them in here now, which I'm kind of glad. Like consumers are like, hey, it doesn't have to be all hops.
Yeah.
But I was curious. A third bestseller means it's still really moving.
It is. Yeah. I think the Heff drinker is looking for the Heff, and there's not many breweries making Heff year round, you know?
Exactly.
Or really putting much effort in. I mean, we put a lot of effort into this beer, and we're constantly trying to dial it in and make it as best as it can be. And I think it's kind of a little bit of an afterthought for a brewery. It's like, oh, we need another SKU. Let's add a wheat beer, you know, or something like that.
Right.
I'm not saying everyone does that. Just, you know, you just don't see people really putting their best foot forward and really pushing their Heff out. And I think that just left an open space for us. You know, Widmer and Pyramid, you're not seeing as much out there, and those really dominated that. Blue Moon and Shock Top started coming in and kind of taking a lot of that business as well. And I think those are starting to fade a little bit. And people like, you know, are Heff drinkers. They're not that they just order a Heff, you know. And if you have a good Heff, they'll keep ordering them.
And speaking of like the Blue Moon and the Shock Top, they've been around long enough now too that I feel like if that was your go-to, you know, not light lager, because let's face it, like that's your kind of drinker for those. If you've been drinking that for years now, you're ready to graduate to something, like a real Bavarian Heff would be your next move.
100%.
So I think, if you put this in front of I've been drinking Blue Moon for 5 years, that's my beer. If you put this in front of them, I feel like they're like, oh, okay, I could do that.
They do. It's funny, you see like that, the Shock Top Blue Moon drinker that wants to be a hazy IPA drinker but doesn't want to drink anything. So they don't want the lemon or the orange on there, so they drink a Heff, and you know it's what they want, and it fits right in with all the hazy IPA drinkers.
Yeah, this by the way is a true Bavarian Heff. I mean, it tastes like a great local. If I was sitting in Bavaria type of Heff.
That's what we're going for. You know, real sessionable, easy drinking, good mouthfeel. It's a little bit lighter than most wheat beers. Doesn't have that viscosity, that real thickness to it that sometimes you can get out of American wheat beers. It makes it easy drinking.
It's really light bodied, and I wanted to say effervescent because it does seem to lift right off of my palate.
Yeah,
but that seems like a disservice too because it's not like overly carbonated or anything.
No.
I don't mean that at all. But there is something about it that just lifts right off your palate, and part of that is the carbonation, and part of it is, I guess, it's just like the perfect body.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's nice.
Especially as it warms up right now, it's a good drinking beer. So
do you get everybody asking you to serve it with lemons at the tap room though?
Yeah, you get those people. Oh, can I get a lemon? You know, it's like there's no. We used to have on the packaging saying no fruit needed. You know,
I like that because
in the original hazy beer, right? So
now that's a good. Do you guys put that on the packaging?
Yeah.
That's so funny because as soon as the hazy thing came out, I was like, you know, this has existed for decades, right? Like
exactly.
More, maybe millennia. I don't know. You are right about the it has a great citrus, especially in the nose, which is way better than like bubblegum and clove.
Yeah, exactly. When we were messing around the yeast and testing it out, we're like, yes, this is what we wanted out of Heff. You know, it's like I know there's a place for that kind of bubblegum banana clove, you know, and I feel like, but I don't know, I feel like everyone really likes those, citrus out of the hops and stuff, and this kind of doesn't give you that bitterness, but it gives you kind of a little bit of that citrus kind of notes to it, a little bit of that fruitiness, a little spiciness, but it's very subtle, you know, and it's one of those that builds on it.
Do you know if it's like also kind of a lower fermentation temperature than normal to reduce those things, or is it just that yeast strain is dialed in for that?
It's about 16C.
Okay. I can't do that conversion.
Yeah, what's that, like 64?
So it is a little lower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you might get a little more of that ester production, I think 68 and above, right? So just a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Does White Labs maintain that for you guys?
They do. They're awesome.
They would,
They're awesome. And so we have this yeast with White Labs, and then actually one thing with the Backyard Hero and all of our lagers, we have our own proprietary lager strain as well.
Oh, nice.
Same partner of ours brought in, and he's like, "This is my favorite lager strain. It comes from this old brewery in Bavaria. It doesn't exist anymore. I've just kept it up." Tested out and just really cleaned up all of our fermentation and we started making hoppy lagers on it, and it brews warm, brews cold, really flexible yeast. It's a pretty cool thing that we got. So
see, that's awesome about White Labs too, because that's the stuff that Chris White like really enjoys, that he'll geek out about. I feel like, I don't think he does this, but I feel he's like a little kid that he'd be like, "Can I please maintain that strain for you? Can I just be the one who takes? I want us to be the caretaker of that." Because he is a nerd about like those strains. He cares, right? So
well, yeah, and it takes a lot of like you want to trust someone with that, right? And Chris is the guy you want to go to.
Yeah, you don't want that phone call that's like, "So we had a power outage."
Yeah, exactly. Like it's no more, or we lost it. Just buy more of our other yeast, It's like, well,
no, well, because like you said, if it's from a brewery in Germany that doesn't exist anymore, you do not want to F around with that.
No, the guy brought in the slide. He's like, "There's only one more slide of this. It's banked at UC Davis. Don't fuck this up." We're like, okay. So
that's great.
No, but you'll see. I mean, you don't taste it with the lagers as much, but this one definitely comes through.
Well, I want to try some more beer, so why don't we do this? We'll take a quick break.
Perfect.
And when we come back, we'll try some more beer. I'm hanging out with Ryan Fry from Sudwerk, and we'll be back with more on the session. Hang in there.
Off your list and don't do it again. I must
Yeah, I see. I'll mention Pilsner and Back That Hill won a medal. And these are. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Lost out on the drinkers that
All right, welcome back to the program. Thanks for hanging out with us. We are still here with Ryan from Sudwerk Brewing Company, and we're talking. I got more beer to try, which I'm stoked about. I did want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors and a great friend of mine, 21st Amendment Brewery, 2NA. You know Sean O'Sullivan, and they're always up to something good. You can go to 21stamendment.com and check it out. They got the brew pub is they've expanded their hours and they're open all the time now in San Francisco. You got the new big brewery in San Leandro. And they're just making fantastic beer. You heard Sully on here a few weeks back. And just a big shout out to them. Check out 21A at your local beer purveyor or supermarket or liquor store or even your favorite local bar, because they do it all too, a lot like Sudwerk does. They got a lot of distribution. So check them out, 21st Amendment Brewing Company. And if you get a chance, thank them for being a supporter of this program. So let's talk about this Pilsner.
Yes.
Now, I've been drinking this Pilsner for a while, I think this newish version of it, which was probably just like a few tweaks that you did, I got into like last summer. We were together at Chris White's wedding.
Yes.
And
yeah, it was a good one.
You guys brought this, and Chris brought this, and I don't think I drank another beer for a good several days. Like, I really stuck with this Pilsner. I don't know. It's a near perfect Pilsner, man.
Thank you.
And you won some awards for it too.
Just got a gold medal at GABF.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and been really working on this beer since we started. And it's part of the original beers that were brewed at Sudwerks in '89. The original brewmaster came from Germany and brought his family's recipes and started making, Pilsner, Heff, Märzen, some other German beers. And then when we got it, it was really using a lot of basically just North American pale malt and Pilsner malt, and we realized we wanted to really kind of bring it back to being lighter, crisper, a little bit more refreshing. Still has a little bit more of a upfront hop note to it. So, but we started out making we started doing a lot of trials with it with malts first, and we realized that when we were using the environment malt, just like a floral malt from Bamberg, it really light mouthfeel to it, real nice kind of airiness to the beer, and we're like, all right, this is giving that real light crispness to it, and then really let the hops shine on the finish of it. And so it's been a little bit challenging to get those hops just over the years with like imports and stuff, and so we've been kind of working in some raw old world pills in there a little bit, but I think it still holds up the character to it, and it's something that we're constantly tasting, looking at, and making sure we're dialing this thing in, because it's one of those that can get away from you pretty quickly.
It seems so simple to be like, well, we better use German malt, right? Okay, but it's really not that simple, because American malt's really great too.
It is, yeah.
And I think in some taste tests or some trials, certainly from maybe the folks who are trying to sell you that North American malt, you could be like, oh yeah, that's pretty damn close.
Yep.
But it's like there's a reason that some ingredients are regional, and it's the nuances that you can't really put your finger on until you taste it in a beer like this.
Yes.
Like you said, you guys kind of switching back. You're like, oh yeah, there it is. Like that really lightened it up.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that you start talking to like the new UC Davis professor that took over Charlie Bamforth's spot as the head of the brewing program at his name's Glenn Fox, and he specializes in malts. And so you start talking to him about it, and he's like, yeah, the malt characteristics from growing in North America, in different regions of North America versus Europe, they just have different characteristics coming to the malt. Right. Then when you're floor malting and these other things start playing in parts of the flavor of your beer, and when you have a beer that's very light and nuanced in flavor already, these things start to shine. Especially this is a beer you're going to have a handful of, right? So like as you drink it, those nuances start to build and they start to come alive, and I think that's where this beer really shines. Is as you drink it still remains light and crisp and easy drinking. It doesn't build on your palate where it's pretty clowing. I think sometimes you get that out of some Pilsners. It kind of gets a little thick on you, a little malty.
Is it 100% Pilsner malt?
Yes.
Or is it no?
It has a bag of acidulated malt.
Okay. Yeah.
So
sense. So one of the things I really like about this beer is everything you just described is how it got very light and very bright because of that Weyermann Pils.
Yep.
But it's more so what that paves the way for, which is a true noble spice.
Yes.
Like the hop character in this is not it's not like American hops. It is that really noble spice.
Yes.
And the spiciness is what comes out, right? And it's not, you know what I mean? I don't mean pepper. I don't mean heat. I don't even know exactly how to describe it, but it's such a bright, spicy, noble character. And it really pops off the palate, I think, in part because of that malt you chose.
Yeah. It does. And so there's Hallertau, Perle, and Tradition, and Tettnang in it.
Okay.
And you nailed it. It has that little bit of that spicy hop bite, a little bit of kind of herbalness, or it's not minty, but it's kind of in that kind of spice category, right? Where
actually, that's a great descriptor. It's not minty, but in the aftertaste, right? And as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh yeah. And it's just refreshing minty, right? And we're not talking about chewing on a stick of minty.
No, we're not talking the mint flavor of it, or that coolness of it. It's just that if you were to take that away, what would be left over? Kind of that characteristic. So yeah,
I like that you used four of the noble hops. I think there's only 5 total. I forget. But you and I were talking about my friend Dan Gordon at the break. And in his beers, I would always ask him, and he would just kind of mess with me a little bit, like, well, what hops do you put in it? And he's like, the noble ones. And I go, okay, but which ones? And you go, the noble ones. And finally he'd be like, all of them, Justin. He does at almost every edition, and it depends on the beer. But I think if we're talking about his Pilsner, it's 4 noble hops at boil, 4 noble hops at in the middle, 4 noble hops at the end. And I really love his Pilsner. And I always thought that was kind of the secret to a traditional Pilsner. He's like, no, you don't just put Perle in. You don't just put you don't just put Saaz.
Yep.
You've got to go Saaz. I think his were Saaz, Hallertau, I want to say Perle, and Tettnang.
Okay.
And what did you say? You said
Tradition, Perlay, and Tetning.
Yeah. And his whole thing, and I couldn't argue with it because I'd be like, your Pilsner's one of the best I ever have.
Nice.
Rather than like sticking to just one, right? Which I think a lot of other lager brewers were doing. So I think you've really done well to do the same, to get the mix of them. Because, when you, especially for an amateur like me, if you put all of those hops like next to each other, I'm not going to notice a ton of difference between them.
Yeah, it's tough.
But somehow together, it does make a difference.
It does, yeah. And we've tested over the years different combinations of them. And it does change the beer. And this one kind of gives it, like what we were talking about, a little bit of that kind of brightness of the hop characteristic at the end of the beer that we liked, without it lingering too much. There's a little bit of dryness on this beer on the finish, but not a huge, bitter or hop bitterness there that's changing the flavor.
I just love this beer. Where's the medal for this? Let me.
So this one got a gold medal. The Backyard Hero we were just drinking had a gold medal as well in the GABF
for American Light
Lager. Yeah.
So beat out all the big domestic breweries for American Light Lager.
Yeah. It's a contemporary American style lager category.
Oh,
so
I see.
Yeah.
Let me hold
that. Was
I know those of you listening can't see, but if you're watching on the YouTubes, that's what a GABF gold medal looks like right there.
Yeah, we were pretty fired up. I mean, we've been working hard at this like 12 plus years of our current team, and day in day out, just really focused on lagers. And now for it to all be kind of validated in these medals was meant a real lot to us. I mean, it was a lot of hard work from our team. Our team puts a lot of effort into it, and it's not always the sexiest thing making lagers. Especially and now it's starting to get a little bit more notice, but in the hop IPA craze and the hazy IPA craze, we're out here championing lagers and pilsners and stuff, and some hoppy lagers and things, and people are like, where's your IPA? I'm like, well, we got this right here, I'm telling you.
Right.
And
what's funny though is it won't be the brewers who ask you that question.
Yeah.
The brewers and your peers are just like, hey, give me that pilsner.
Yeah.
They're not going to come ask you as the IPA.
That's when you have something great, is when the brewers start coming in asking for your pills, and they're like, giving you a little bit of a kudos. They're like, oh, this is good stuff. And you're like, all right, we got something good here. We got something special. You guys just keep telling everyone about it, and they'll figure it out. They just got to drink it. They just got to try it.
Totally. Well, and even though you're saying like they may not be the sexiest categories, they're also not the smallest categories anymore. That's a big category. Both of those are big categories that you guys just went in. So,
they are.
That's really nice.
They're getting more and more competitive. And more people are really, it's great too. Like, I was looking at your guys' board before the show, and I was like, wow, you guys have 6, 7 lagers up there. I mean, and not just light lagers. I saw a Doppelbock. I saw all kinds of good stuff up there. And it's great to see that diversity in the market now, too. It's starting to become more noticeable and more apparent, and it's great to be able to try it.
It is, yeah. We're mixing it up a lot more now. But part of the reason, too, is because more of you are making them so well. Mm-hmm. And I've said this on the show, so I apologize to my listeners whenever I'm redundant, but years ago, if I had opened a bar, 10 years ago, there wouldn't be that many craft lagers on tap. And the reason is they just, you guys were still figuring it out. Not you guys per se, but brewers were still.
I agree.
And now, the brewing chops have just gotten so good. Like the people have gotten so good at their craft, at this craft, that now we're like, yeah, give us more lagers, And now also like we sell them too, like. A lot of times people come in here, we're a bottle shop too, and it matters what we say. People ask what we're drinking, or they're just like dumbfounded and we have an opinion, so we give it to them. Well, more often than not, our opinion is moving to the lagers that are in our fridge.
That's great.
Because they're just stellar.
Yeah, and I've been noticing that a lot. I mean, I love lagers, so whenever I go to a brewery, I order their lager, and you can, 5 years ago, like you're saying, like you're trying these lagers, and they're under fermented, they were rushed out. They didn't give them the time, they weren't focused on them because they wanted to make more IPAs or whatever it was. It just didn't get the attention it needed, and now people are really like focusing on them and putting some good effort in it, and there's some great stuff in the market right now.
Totally,
it's a great time to be drinking lager right now.
So it's funny that you say that too. So I will now do that too. Order the lager first. It used to be that I would order the IPA first because it would cover up more things. Now I'm more nervous about ordering IPAs if it's a brewery I haven't been to.
Yeah.
Because most of you have gotten so damn good at IPAs.
Oh yeah.
If I go to a new brewery that isn't people haven't told me oh, go there, make sure if I just haven't heard of them, I'm like afraid of their IPAs now.
I'm the same. I'm the same way. Like that IPA we started the show with was one of the better IPAs I've had.
Yeah.
And like, if I could get that every time I'm at a brewery, that's what I'm drinking.
Right.
Maybe with some lagers as well. But I'm with you. I always try to go with the pale ale. I'm like, okay, it's kind of hard to. Those aren't that prevalent anymore. So
you're right. Well, those are coming back too. But you're right, because it just seems like middle of the road enough that even if they brew it poorly, it's still going to be drinkable.
Exactly.
Right. And I hate to say that about you brewers, but that's just how it is. I think it's the same with anything. Like, I don't know, bread. Like, you see the bread aisle. Mm-hmm. You still go grab the one that you know that's good.
Yeah.
And if it's a brand that comes out with a new bread, well, you're not afraid to try that either.
Exactly.
But you're not just grabbing some random new brand of bread. Yeah. And I don't really do that with beer either, unless someone's taking me to a brewery, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm grabbing like my go-tos.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Choose another beer for us.
All right.
To try.
So we're going to get outside the lager wheelhouse here. We got some IPAs.
So not an IPL, like a real IPA.
Yeah, I didn't bring any IPLs. We have been making a lot of IPLs, cold IPAs now. I know there's a little bit of a difference, but
we just talked about that on the last episode.
Yeah.
Well, and real quick before we move on to that, I forgot to ask about your Pilsner. Is this one of your proprietary yeasts too?
It is.
This Pilsner. Okay.
Yeah, the Pilsner is the Backyard Hero. They both have that. And I think that really helps up the fermentation profile. So I think it's another thing that, like we were talking about, our Pilsner, it's about a 6-week beer, So I mean, we're giving it some time, and same with Backyard Hero. Like it.
Wow.
We really respect that process and make sure we're going to give it to it. And Pilsner is about 65% of our business because it just keeps growing and growing, and we're finding good hold there. But I think the lager yeast that we have really sits in the background and really lets the beer shine, which is nice. So
it's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go IPA. A Sudwerk, I don't know. I'm trying to remember if I've ever had a Sudwerk IPA.
We have a few IPAs here. This is kind of like a more lighter, hazy IPA that we've been making. I think we're getting a lot of requests for IPA, and so we're finally like, all right, well, and as we were making IPLs and hoppy lagers, we started making more IPAs just to really understand how you bring the hops into a cold fermenting beer, and so just understanding that we were always making IPAs. It just, we weren't making a lot of them. And so now it's with the popularity of them, we're making some more and we like them. We're just making them our own way. And what we like about the lager is that it's balanced and it's drinkable, it's sessionable, it has a nice clean finish to it. Doesn't linger too much. And so we try to bring that into all of our IPAs as well.
Okay.
So this one's Solar Haze. It's a hazy IPA. It's a light one. It's 4.3. It has some Citra, Galaxy, Eldorado. We use some enzymes into it too to really bring down the finishing gravity to like almost 0 or below. And so it's lower calorie, lower, and it's kind of like your all-day drinking. If you don't want to drink Pilsner, this is kind of what you could be drinking all day, hanging out, and it's kind of like our go-to IPA.
You guys don't call it like session IPA because that you just call it IPA?
Yeah.
I think you should, by the way. Just call it IPA, but I'm just curious.
I think session's going to kill your IPA,
You're right. I know. That's why I meant you're doing it right. I'm just curious because that was like a thing for a while to call it, but a smart salesperson is like, no, F that. Drop session.
Yeah, exactly, and we realized that this has only been around for about a year and a half, 2 years. So we kind of session IPA came and went at that point. And when we started realizing, in the market and what people are marketing, IPA can be 4% to like 7.5% now. It's like it's such a huge range that it's kind of what you want to make it and what what brand you want to build around it. So
I agree, but it's hop like an IPA.
Yeah,
great, like bright citrus flavor. I know you didn't say mosaic, but it's got a little like mosaic character, like that complexity, like a mosaic does. What are the hops? Yeah. Citra. What else?
Citra, Galaxy, and Eldorado. Yeah, I think the Eldorado's coming through like that. Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah, that's a great hop.
Yeah, we're loving Eldorado. Yeah. Do a lot with Eldorado, and I think the Citra is always nice, kind of that brings out that citrus component to go with the Eldorado, and the Galaxy kind of rounds it all out, kind of makes it a little bit more complex. So, was it hard for you guys to contract out hops for IPAs like this, like not knowing what your volume of them is going to be? So we when we were making the hoppy lager in 2008, we kind of went on a journey of trying every single hop in the market. Okay, and we started we did like isolated hop trials, every single hop. and then kind of building different varieties together and stuff. And we started isolating the ones we really liked, and these were some of the ones we liked, and we over-contracted them. And so we already had contracts, and we had way too many of them because we were making a bunch of like IPLs and hoppy lagers, but those styles never really took off for us. So now we still have a lot of these contracts.
Okay.
And so we're sitting all right. And
you guys seem to be lucky fellows. Like
kinda, yeah. I mean, there's some of them that we totally did not get contracted, and we're under contracted on. But we do have some of them that have lasted, as well as we've renewed our contracts, and the ones we wanted for some of these beers we're trying now as well. So yeah.
So listening to you talk about that and how you tried every single hop and you singled them out and all that, what does I don't know? It's not just QC. What does like beer selection look like for you guys? Do you have a team? Does the whole company sit down and like try these beers all the time, and you guys decide together what's going to move forward? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it is a team effort, and it's funny because Chris White, him and Jamil were writing their yeast book when we first started, and they're always at the brewery talking together. And Chris had a little R&D lab there, and he's like, "You guys need to be doing more tastings together, like team tastings, like every week, like a lot of team tastings." And we're like, "That's not, yeah, of course we do." And so he started helping us kind of organize, get them going. So we started that process, and through that process, we started, all right, let's focus on this beer. Let's focus on, okay, we want to develop these hops. Okay, how are we going to go about it? And it's a collaborative effort from everyone. And, I think everyone's always in the market in our company trying other stuff and, seeing what's going on. And they kind of bring that back and like, hey, I tried, like today we tried this, frozen wet hop beer. It had these great characters. Let's bring some in. Let's test it out, And so we're always experimenting. We have two brew systems like we talked about. We have our original restaurant system, and we have our bigger system. And we actually have a 1-barrel system, a more beer system.
Oh, nice.
That UC Davis bought and keeps in our brewery. So we're always piloting on that. Then if we like something, we'll scale it up to our 12-barrel system, try it out. So we can kind of always be testing things and trying things. And it's kind of a collaborative effort and figuring out kind of what people are looking for, what do we like, and how do we put our spin on something that's relevant in the market. Trying to find that product market fit. I think we have a lot of things that people are already looking for, or that kind of staples. But in terms of new stuff, we're always trying. We're like, all right, well, we don't have this in our in our beer lineup right now, and people are liking this, and we're liking this, so let's give it a shot and let's kind of do it our own way.
Yeah. So listening to it, and you just said the statement. Like there's the famous like sales quote is like always be closing, and you guys are always be testing.
Always be testing.
I feel like that's your brewery motto. It should be like painted on the wall in there because you're very open-minded. I mean, not that other brewers aren't. Maybe that sounds silly to say, but it really sounds like you guys constantly going out of your way to like, well, forget what our wheelhouse is. What if we find something outside of our wheelhouse? That would be cool.
Yeah. I think that's part of the fun, right? Always, and a lot of times what we learn through other things, like I mentioned, like we were brewing IPAs to understand how to do hop up lagers and stuff, or we're kind of going through other processes. Like with this beer, we use some enzymes to help it fully ferment out, and like so we're able to then kind of learn a little more about enzymes. We can apply that to other processes and other beers we're doing. So I mean, sometimes there's crossover, which really helps out. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's the fun part, is always being experimenting and testing. I mean, in terms of QC and testing, like those guys were talking about earlier from Ghost Town. I mean, we're always trying the wort, trying everything through process. Right. We cellar everything after it's packaged, cold and warm for a year. Test every month, plate it up, see anything's growing, making sure that our quality is maintained. As it ages, and if there's anything going on there that we can address.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And not everybody breweries like take notice. We've talked about this a lot on the show, but if you don't have a solid quality control program and really care about that end of it, it really doesn't matter how good your recipe is. It really doesn't matter how good your ingredients are. If you're not doing a ton of testing and QC and, like you said, even just tasting. Just taste everything all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's fun, too. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
It's the best part of the job. Everyone's like, oh, you just drink beer all day? It's like, well, not really, but...
No, but it's the fun part.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Right. All right, well, let's pick at least one more beer, and then I want to talk about the restaurant, too, while you're pouring that. Get that ready for us.
I got a West Coast IPA we use some Incognito Mosaic on, or I have a hazy IPA here that we do some mash hopping to get some thiols out of.
West Coast.
Yeah.
Only because I want to try the Incognito too.
Okay.
I am a West Coast fan, but the Incognito sounds interesting to me.
Me too.
Now, when I met y'all too, or met Sudwerk, there was a big old giant Bavarian style restaurant right there in Davis where you guys are. Always great food. I loved it. I was, always astonished at the size of the place, especially compared to like the brewery, right? Although back when Trenton's grandfather started it, that was probably a really smart move. I think, like you said, they were selling so much over the counter.
Oh, yeah.
But the restaurant in recent years went away completely, right?
Yeah. When a few years before we got involved, they leased it out. They were originally trying to sell the brewery. Oh, yeah. And they almost had some other breweries that were going to buy it, and they couldn't come to the terms with it. So they leased out the restaurant to another proprietor out of San Francisco, and he was operating the restaurant. And so when we came in, we were just running the brewery. And then the restaurant eventually went out of business a few years ago.
So before COVID, it wasn't a COVID thing.
Yeah, it was before COVID. Okay. It was like a year before COVID.
Okay.
And so then at that point, so we bought the brewery, but then there was the restaurant and there was the whole property. So then we came in and bought the property, and then that took over the lease of the restaurant, and now we're working on remodeling that restaurant. And our goal is really to create like a destination brewery experience, like the ultimate experience with our beer in the region. And so we have, like you said, it's a pretty sizable space. It's going to be, we have a huge outdoor patio as well. It's going to be about 400 seats. Inside it'll be about 300 seats or so. So I think, and then we have a whole beer hall, banquet room and stuff for events.
So you guys are gutting the place, basically.
The what's remaining, the inside's going to get gutted. I mean, we're keeping the brew system. We're going to build
where it is?
Right where it is.
Okay.
We're keeping the firms right where they are. We're keeping a lot of the brick. We're building a whole new bar. It's going to be indoor-outdoor bar.
Nice.
And it's going to have 24 taps, mirrored taps. We'll have full liquor and wine too. So we'll have everything. We'll be featuring local spirits and wines as well. That we're aging beer. We have a whole barrel aging program and stuff. So really trying to tie everything back into the beer story. And so I mean that's the big project for this year. So probably in like October timeframe, we'll be having a grand opening is the goal.
Okay.
And so I mean we're really trying to make it bigger and better than ever. Huge patio at the stage for live music, fire pits, things like that.
Wow.
So we're gonna bring back some of the traditional German items like some brats and things like that. UC Davis actually has one of the best butcher room programs in the country. So we work with them to send them our spent grain. They feed their animals, and then we are able to serve like their beef in our burgers. They make all of our brats and sausages, so they'll be doing that for us. And then we'll be obviously doing some other kind of like more beer garden type cuisine, some burgers and some barbecue, things of that nature.
Oh, sounds fantastic.
Yeah, you're fired up. I hope so.
You know what I love about Davis from here too is that I can take the Amtrak from my house in Martinez.
Perfect.
To you guys.
Yeah, that's an easy ride. Yeah, we got to have you up for a show for the grand opening.
Heck yeah.
That'd be great.
I'd love to come up for that.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me about what's this West Coast called?
Yeah, so this is Regrowth.
Regrowth,
And so, West Coast IPAs, I think, are making a comeback. I mean, the hazy is still, I think, really the king here, but I think they're starting to fade a little bit. And West Coast, people are really looking for that crisp finish and looking for a nice West Coast beer profile. And I think that we named this Regrowth as like the regrowth of the West Coast style coming back, as well as we came out with the style right when the fires kind of hit and everything's kind of regrowing and stuff. I think we have the California grizzly bear on here. It's kind of resembling like the California spirit and brewing and just resilience. So it's a style that we wanted to have a little bit more modern take on the West Coast IPA. Really tried to really drive up the aroma on it and the hop flavor profile with reducing some of the bitterness on the back end. It just uses all pale malt, so real light malt base and big hop profile up front. So we wanted to drink real crisp and easy, but still give you that kind of full hop experience you get in a West Coast IPA.
It's a great beer. Nelson, Amarillo, and Simcoe, yeah?
Yes.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we do use some Mosaic Incognito in it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, in the Whirlpool.
6.3. That's right where I like an IPA.
Yeah,
I mean, 7's fine too, as Justin was saying earlier with Ghost Town. But yeah, 6.3 is a good shot right there.
Yeah,
great artwork.
Thanks. Hey, we have a local artist. The guy is super talented and really makes our beers come alive. I think that's you put so much effort into making a great beer, and people always look at your label first before they drink it, right?
Yeah.
So like you gotta make sure the label is really doing justice to what you got inside the can.
Totally. Well, and like us too, like we just like you said earlier, cans have just become so prevalent. We have 3 glass doors full of cans, and we have a couple types of customers. People who just come in and go for the brewery that they know, like what new brewery do we have from, say, Altamont or whatever. But then you have others who are just like, well, that can looks cool. It's something the wine industry's been doing for decades.
Yeah, it's not novel.
None of us buy wine because we know what it is. We don't know shit. But if the label looks cool, we're like, well, I better try that.
Exactly.
Like it goes label first and then the price maybe after.
Exactly.
Luckily with craft beer, we hardly look at the price anymore. We're just like, label looks cool and I know the brewery.
Yeah. And we're like, all right, our label formula is brewery name, cool artwork, and beer name and style. Like, you guys got cool artwork. People are like, what kind of beer is it? It's like, well, people just want to see IPA. All right, it's an IPA. That's what I want, right?
Well, and if you think about it, there is some logic to that, because if you've put in the time and effort and you cared enough to, say, find a local artist that's awesome and pay that person to do that, to me, that all translates to like, well, the beer's probably good too.
Yes.
As opposed to, I'm not saying that people just print out labels on their home printer anymore, but you know what I mean? Like a shitty logo and label, and you're like, I don't know if you didn't get that right.
Yeah, I mean, like we're talking about like testing and trying and creating new beers. It's like the amount of effort goes in just making the beers one thing, but then you gotta do the other side of it, right? You gotta come up with the artwork, the name, all that. And I think everyone in the industry knows how hard it is to come up with a beer name right now. Every name's taken, and then it takes a lot of, if you're working with an artist, it takes a lot of collaboration to really get something together. And there's a lot of effort that goes into that. And I think,
definitely,
your label will showcase that. You've put that amount of effort into your label, you're probably putting a good amount of effort into your beer too.
Sure. Well, and I do think that's another thing that you and Trenton have done to elevate this brand too. I think the brand always looked great. You guys always had that traditional classic. I think that his grandfather and their partner, they put a lot of time and effort into that too.
Definitely.
But it was more like the classic Sierra Nevada logo, right? Which is still perfect for them and for their brand. But you guys had to evolve, and I think you've done a nice job of taking that classic look and translating it into a new look too. Like you guys aren't afraid to really go modern. Like let me see that hazy can too. Like this, if you just looked at the front of it, you'd be like, okay, well that's not from Sudwerk. Except right down at the bottom, you've got your Sudwerk logo fits in perfect. That stuff's not hard to do. There's some legacy brands out there that can't do this even.
It's tough. And I think we wanted to honor our legacy and our tradition, but also have bring the brand to become more local and represent more of the Northern California region, Davis, California, and you really kind of taken to the next generation. And so I think that's really what we're trying to do here is making sure they're fun, they evoke emotion, they connect with people. I think the traditional stuff maybe isn't as understood. A lot of people don't know what a Dunkel or a Dahlbach are, or something like that. And so coming up with something that's a little more relevant, I think, to people can understand, and hopefully they come by the brewery. And I think that's one thing we're excited to have with the restaurant is a bunch more taps now that we can do some traditional stuff. We can do some other things that are great beer styles. It's people just are not really interested or looking for them in the market. So you're like you bring. I was stoked to see, like I said, Dahlbach here. It's like we had Dahlbach, we had DQ it because it's just we have people calling about it, but it's like 4 or 5 people. It's not enough to support a brand. But people love it, and to be able to showcase that, or a Dunkel or a Schwarzbier or other type, English ales, whatever it is, be able to showcase that at the tap room is going to be really nice, because I think those things have to be kind of tasted and explained, and once they try them, they want to want more of it.
For sure.
Yeah.
But again, like marketing is so important that even those traditional styles, if nobody's heard of a Dunkel, but you made the can art look like this one that I just held up to the camera, well, now somebody might go, I better try that beer. If you just make it look cool, it's already going to taste cool. Like you said, if people just try it, then that's the hard part, is getting them to try it. So the artwork is almost as important to just get people to try a traditional style. I think that Wayfinder up in Portland does a good job of that. So in almost all German style brewing, they're kind of credited with
the cold IPA.
Yep. Well, and you can check them out here. We have them in the fridge here.
Okay.
Almost all their styles are traditional that we care. Like there's a Helles, there's like a Bach, there's but the can and the names all look so like rock and roll.
Nice.
That I think new people are like, oh, I better try that beer.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's a great beer. Mm-hmm. But you're right. If it was just a Dunkel with a traditional German logo on it, people are like, well, I don't need that. I've never heard of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's all just sort of part of. I'm just kind of giving you guys kudos for that.
Thank you.
As you're talking about moving this into the next generation, into the next years to come, you're doing a good job of that, and not everybody can or does.
Thanks.
Not to their fault. It's a hard thing to do, and you guys clearly spend a lot of time going like, "Hey, we're going to be here a while, and we care. How do we showcase that?"
Yeah, definitely, and we're trying. It's I think we never know if it's successful or not, and at the end of the day, you just got to put a lot of effort and trust into it, and then you iterate. If it doesn't work, you try again. So.
Yeah. Well, but that's what people can get lazy, and maybe you've been doing it for too long, and you're just like, well, if they don't like the beer I make, then fuck it, But you can't have that attitude. So.
It is frustration. It's frustrating, but you gotta be tenacious.
Oh, I'm the same, man. I'm like, they don't like my podcast, they can suck it. And I'm like, well, I better figure out how to make them like it again.
Yeah. No, you're doing great things here.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming out and sharing all this beer with us. I really appreciate it. I would like to come up and do a show with you guys, get Trenton on the air too.
Yes.
But I'll just take the train up and do a little remote show.
Love
up
it.
There.
Yeah,
I'll
my
crash
pleasure.
At Chris White's place.
That'd be great. Yeah, he's right down the street from us. So,
yeah, exactly.
we have a little party.
Yeah, I meant to reach out to him and see if he was up here to join you, but I think he's traveling anyway. But
we'll have to do another one with Trent. And that'd be great if we could do it up at the brewery with the opening of the restaurant. And I think we'd really appreciate that. And it was awesome coming down here. Thanks for having us.
No,
it's
I'm
been
glad
too long.
I'm glad that you made it.
Yeah.
We do have Sudwerk beer on tap right now. We've got the Heff on, and we've got the Backyard Hero, the American Light Lager. I know that we're going to be ordering more. I definitely going to have Lewis get this Pilsner on for us. So, come on down to the Hop Grenade if you can't make it up to Davis, although you can find Sudwerk all over the place. Any place you want to say that we can find beer?
Well, I mean, first of all, we have a tap room Thursday through Sunday open. We have a small kitchen putting out some food as well, so you can come up, have some food and some beers. Always new beers coming out every week, which is awesome. We have usually live music, other events going out, so you can check out social media for that. And then, Hop Grenade, great local, bottle shops and beer shops around usually are serving our beer. Nugget, Rayleigh's, some of the Safeways and stuff. So I think you can kind of see it in your local markets. And if you don't have it, then just ask for it. Whole Foods, we try to work with everyone. At the same time, we want to work with people keeping our beer, cold and fresh, and it's selling that. So, we try to work with everyone in the Northern California area. So
excellent. Go find them, check them out, and you won't be disappointed. All right, I'm going to get us out of here. Thanks again to all of our guests today, Justin and Evan from Ghost Town for stopping in, and of course, Ryan from Sudwerk. We'll be back with more. I've got quite a few breweries lined up for you, so stick with us. Like I said, thank our sponsors and purchase stuff from them. It'll help keep us around, and we'll see you next time right here on The Session.
down south they own too. They bought another brewery down south.
There's one more, and I can't remember.
I guess they're trying to buy like 10 breweries. He said in the next 3 years, and then they're gonna roll them up and sell them. I guess is their goal.
Oh, is that right?
That's